Highfield House, one of the jewels in the crown of Driffield. Has a long history which I'm not going to go into, but if you look up Highfield House Driffield on Google, you'll get it. It's amazing. It was originally on the site of an old windmill which was destroyed in a freak storm. The miller went bankrupt, and it was put to auction and bought by a chap called Angus, if I remember correctly, and the first house on the site was built there. It's just one of the hidden jewels of Driffield. Beautiful house. I showed you it previously when we were just down there, and I showed you the lower wall of it with all the adverts on. It's now a wedding and party and conference centre and general facility. It's a very beautiful house. Right, and these are granny steps. I'm going to walk down there and show you something else. As you can see, it's set on a very high hill. This was known as Holt's Hill at one point. Due to the chap who then owned the Highfield, who was called Harrison Holt, who was involved with the oilseed and cake mill in Driffield. But previous to that, it was known, of course, as Windmill Hill. So there you go. But round here, we have the pinfold, which was almost disappeared and has been restored into this beautiful little garden. And up there, can you see it? Can you see it from here? Let me just go a bit higher up. Up there, what you have is a moat, and sticking out at the top, Moot Hill. Right, Moot Hill is it's known to be the site of a Norman castle, but it's also the site of an earlier castle underneath it. And it is thought that there was a barrier across from Moot Hill to Windmill Hill, which may have formed a gateway into the King of Northumbria's manor, house, castle, whatever, which was behind those trees in what is now North End Park. So there's another little bit of history. I'm just going to go back up the hill now, see if I can get you a better shot of the Moot Hill. Yes, that's better. You can see the Moot Hill much more clearly now. And as I say, this was it was thought that there was some sort of palisade or even a gateway across here, but it may have been raised earth. It doesn't appear to have been stone. There is a report in the archaeological records of that being dug, but I don't think they found a great deal. So there you go. I've said it again. Bye now. There you are, folks. That's a very exclusive view of the Moot Hill and the moat. You can see the bank there more clearly now. That's the moat. Right. And that was a Norman castle with another castle, it's thought, underneath it. And that bank is thought to have continued straight across Holt's Hill or Windmill Hill to the hill. Can you see just through the trees there? That is Highfield House, the back of. There's the earth bank, and that is where it is believed the gatehouse into Old Frith's enclosure, or manor house, or whatever it was situated. As I say, this has been dug. Now you might be able to see, I think it's just in that area there. This is a funny story. Well, I think it's funny. I think it's when they were levelling up North End Park, because North End Park, apparently, the part of it around the trees was very uneven, and there was even talk of the fact that there was steps going down and there was stonework, etc., etc. down there, and things were found when they were putting that pipe across. And somebody said, we ought to level that up, make it safe, because it's dangerous. And the local council said, yeah, that's a good idea. He said, right, we need some spoil. Can I take some off the old Moot Hill? And he said yes, because it was close. It's just the North End Park's just across the road from here. And so the council said yes. And they came with carts and they dug it up, dug it out and dug it and used it to level up. So there you go. So that's why there's a big hole. You can see just down here where these two sheep are. If I can find these two sheep there. You see there? There's a bit of a bank. Well, originally, all that area was filled in with soil and was the same height as that, until they came and dug it away. I think this was in the early 1900s. But this is an exclusive view because this is out the back of, this is out of Isabel's bedroom window in our roof space. Beautiful afternoon. Just come back from a 3.5 mile walk. Well, nearly 4 mile walk actually. Okay, bye now. The end of Eastgate North, just opposite the wall of the Highfield. A very interesting picture. And this is the area here where the manor or castle or whatever of Old Frith was suspected of being. The dig took place just behind that domed enclosure there, and certainly found some remains, but there were also reports of the early 1800s there being stairs and steps buried in here that were found when a drain was run across to the beck from the main street here. There's also a little area here where there's been some digging, because there's been some services put in, as you can see here, and there was some I think there were some artefacts found here as well on this area, but about that I do not know. Right, over here, right behind that parked van, is a building which is very interesting. It was the butcher's shop of Cecil and his son Eric Grantham. And Mr. Grantham was the first, well, both of them actually, were amateur archaeologists. And when the first burials were discovered at Garton Slack in East Yorkshire, there was over 400 burials eventually discovered. They called in Mr. Grantham and his son because they knew he was an amateur archaeologist and there was nobody else in the area. And he preserved the original findings, involved the Ministry of Antiquities and told them about it. And the rest is history, and you can find, if you look up Garton Slack burials, you'll find out all about that as well. But that's where the butcher shop was, and behind there he had a massive museum collection of all sorts of artefacts, because his hobby was digging and field walking. And of course, with all the farmers ploughing in this area, wherever anything was found in the fields, they'd pick it up and take it to Grantham's. So there you go, that was there. I actually visited that in the 70s and met Mr. Grantham and visited it with one of the major archaeological experts of the East Riding of Yorkshire, who was a guy called TCM Brewster, Tony Brewster, and I went on digs with him as well. Right, bye now. Once was the General Post Office. That little building there with the two arches was the bicycle store. Then there was the post office. And then there was the Majestic Cinema. And then there was a beautiful row of houses and shops which were demolished illegally because they were listed buildings to build this monstrosity, which was known as the Viking Centre. Right, and it's now being, we hope, partially or mostly demolished again to build this, which is on the board, which, if it comes out looking like that, I don't know what angle that's taken from, opening 2024. It'll look quite nice. It's going to be an old folks home. As you can see, these are long empty. The Garden of Remembrance. I'm taking this because I've got a picture of what it used to look like. Another one of Driffield's many disused and converted chapels. This one's in Bridge Street. And as I walk down Bridge Street, I've got some pictures of Bridge Street flooded, which I'll put in after this. I think I've got some taken from both ends actually. But if you note the houses, which are virtually unchanged, apart from these on my immediate left are new, but these are old ones. Looks fabulous. To the back, the old pump, which has just been restored by the local Driffield Town Council. Fabulous job. This little bridge here has been higher. This bridge has got a date on it. 1946. That one. Just walking up here to where the Driffield Steam Laundry was. Again. Massive building, once again next to the beck, because the water was there in the beck. Guess what? And these beautiful old houses were part of it. They were I believe they were converted, but I remember them as being where some of the people who ran the laundry lived, or something like that. Because I've been in the I remember the laundry building. I've been in there as well. This building up here on the left is rebuilt in the same shape as the old building, which was originally a brewery, and the house we live in was originally built for somebody who worked at a brewery, a foreman or something, and this became all sorts, a warehouse, a nightclub again. It was last called the Rink Social Club, although it wasn't the Rink. The Rink was somewhere else in Driffield, but moved here, so they just brought the name with them. Now down here under this wall, when they demolished the Rink, because to be honest they couldn't convert it because the building was absolutely shot to pieces, probably somewhere here there was a well found. There was lots of wells found, but this one was particularly noticeable because it was Roman. It was made out of very neatly cut chalk blocks, cut in a curve, but it was never dug, unfortunately, because the dig that was done after this site was cleared was a rescue dig, and you just didn't have time to finish it. But these houses here were originally where people who worked at the brewery lived, as was the house where I lived just over there. Gibson Street, formerly known as Clay Pits Lane, because straight up there at the top there's a house and a road that goes steeply down into a clay pit, and all the way along Bridlington Road used to be the clay pits and the brickworks where all the local bricks and tiles were made. Bye now. I'm just going to drop a shot in here of Fawcett Gardens because, as I said before, this was East Lodge, which was where Mr. Fawcett the printer lived, and it became the printworks, and I've just found I've got some photographs of the printworks, so I'm going to drop those in behind this. This shot is of the estate where Glaxo used to be, and you can tell the size the factory was. It took up that whole estate. Right, and on the other side, if you can see it in the sun, is the remains of Driffield Linseed Oil and Cake Company under various similar names, and also Southwold Sugar Mills, and now a derelict site awaiting development. I've got some pictures of this in its heyday alongside the railway, and I'll drop these in as well. It seems to have been opened as a public park. Lols. Just walking past the remains of the Linseed Oil and Cake Mill, and as I said, one of these entrances was once open to admit Bernard Manning to open the place when it opened as a nightclub called the Rex Club. I think possibly just down here there's a metal one with a big metal door on it, and I think it was that one. Bernard Manning passed this way. There you go. Right, there's a beautiful house. I've worked in there. I don't know what they used to do there. It was a sort of a mill of sorts. I think they may have made horse feed there. I can remember going in there and working on equipment, mixing equipment and grinding equipment for Jefferson's. And this was the end of the Linseed Oil and Cake Mill, the railway bridge. I'm dropping these in because I've got photographs that show different views from different years. That tower you can see in the distance with the circular window in it was actually at one time a girls' school. Oh. Right, we're almost at Riverhead again, and I realised after I'd put the last video out, there's one thing I forgot to tell you about the canal at Riverhead, and that's the fact that it's not actually open. You can't sail a boat from the River Hull to Driffield because of a low bridge at Wansford that was put in by the local authority many years ago when the old swing bridge collapsed, and it's now a fixed bridge. And said local authority, I must emphasise here, not Driffield Town Council, they have very little say in the matter unfortunately. Said local authority promised, when the new navigation association was formed, that when all the locks were repaired they would remove the bridge and put something swing bridge in. And of course when all the locks were repaired they backworded on it and didn't do it. So there you go. Now I have a picture that I'll drop in here of the original Bradshaw's entrance and the boiler house, and I've also some pictures of this building in earlier years, although it's pretty much the same as it was, to be honest. I don't know if you'll see very much there because of the sun. But it's certainly a beautiful sight down the canal this morning. There you go. I said it again. Kit's Cottage, as it's known, circa, I don't know if it's still Kit's, circa 1790. And that's what it used to look like. Because what went round the back here, which is now the backyard, was actually a road. How things change. Right, as we're walking up here towards the back of the station, this is the off to Hull side. This is the down line. I suppose it is the down line, yeah. I can't remember. Platform 1. We see another two notable buildings in a minute. Where are you going? Oh, you're wobbling on the pavement. Look at the state of these pavements. Here's one, which is now converted to flat. Like everything, but at least if they convert it to flats, they retain the building rather than flatten it and build ticky-tacky boxes in its place. So what we have here is what used to be yet another animal feed merchants, because there were loads in Driffield. That's an unusual house. Very nice. And the classic residence over there, the White House, now an old folks home. And the next one, my cousin and I looked at buying, which we almost did. It would have been a mistake because it was in very poor condition. It was more or less derelict. It had a huge back garden and was a beautiful, or had been a beautiful house. Now of course it's been restored. Here's the second building. I'll drop pictures of these buildings in as they were many years ago. And look, we've still got one signal box still used. Amazing. But that's a beauty. It's, guess what? Yes, it's another feed mill. Right. Waiting for the train. There we go. I'll drop another picture in here. Be Syndico, where baby bouncers were made. Then it became McLaren buggies, and now it's the McLaren Business Park. I remember when that was a green field, because when I was at Jefferson's, one of the jobs I was set on with was making a mains cabinet on 2 poles, and they brought the mains cabinet, when I'd finished it, down here, put it in the middle of a green field and ran a cable to it, and that was the power supply for the building site that built all this lot. There you go. Now this just shows you what can be done. This house was virtually derelict. Nobody was living there, I don't think, and it was falling to pieces. And it was restored. Somebody bought it, took it on and restored it. Look at it now. What a fabulous, fabulous house. This was the Yorkshire Electricity Board maintenance depot, and next to it there and behind it was a yard full of every sort of transformer and pylon and pole and every part of the network you could think of, plus a various assortment of vehicles used for putting poles in, etc, etc. And over there you can see a tower, and that's where we're going today. That tower with the antenna right on top of it is on Bradshaw's new mill, and that's where we're going. I wonder if you can pick up the roar of the water in the background there, because there's 2 noises here that go on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's the roar of the water coming through from the river, through that little triangular enclosure there, past those sluices, and out here. When it comes out there, it goes under the mill, and as far as I know, still powers the water-powered grinding equipment, because I must admit that's one part of the mill I've never actually seen. I've spent a lot of hours in that mill doing electrical maintenance, and also in that mill there, which was the animal feed mill. In fact, Jefferson's installed all that just before I started work there, so I can't claim any credit for that whatsoever. But having said that, inside the animal feed mill was a automated control panel which would start and stop all the machinery in order This is in the days before PLC, programmable logic computers, which are used for process control universally now. And it was of his own design. It was not. It was somebody who worked at Jefferson's, and he designed the panel and he built the panel, and they installed the panel and it worked. And people came from all over the world to look at that because it was the first automated animal feed mill in the country. This would be 1965, 66 it was installed, and I started work in 67. So there you go. And that's Bradshaw's as she looks now. The new mill. This is the new mill because there was a mill here before that burnt down. And it was rebuilt. I've been in just about every floor of that place, even on the bloody top to change the bloody lens on the bloody aircraft warning lamp, and that was scary. Mind you, my friend goes up there now because he's got communications equipment on the mast at the top. The little sticky out bit there is the offices, the new offices, which I did work on that. I remember a very very funny occasion when there was a scaffold out the front of that, and we were working with a company called Butterworth and Kirkwood, who were the plumbers who were doing the glazing, and Jack Kirkwood was outside on the scaffolding and had got a brand new putty knife and dropped it, and it fell into the water here, right? And Jack said, look, you can see it, I can see it, have we got a magnet, I can see it. Leaned out over the scaffolding and fell straight in the cut, and there you go. I had to be dragged out of the cut and sent home to get changed. We can't see anything through those windows, but is it the first, second, third, fourth floor? Is amazing. It's flour sifters, and they're like big mahogany cabinets with loads of little drawers in them with the filters in them, and they stand on 4 cloth tube legs and vibrate backwards and forwards on long wooden strips to filter the flour, or at least it did when I worked there. Right, I'm now going to go to Bradshaw's Cafe for a cup of tea. That's where one of the Bradshaws used to live. And this is the Danger Deep Water with the swans on it. Are they swans or are they just ducks? Oh, they're just ducks at the moment. As you can see, this is another confluence of trout stream, but it's certainly no fishing because this is privately owned waters. Right, I'll love you and leave you. Bye now. Right folks, here I'm just turning the corner onto St John's Road, and I've got a lot of old pictures of St John's Road, so I'm just going to film for a bit and then I'll drop these old pictures in. As you can see, it's now fully built up both sides apart from this bit here, but the church right at the end. See, are you picking up the church at the end? Possibly you are. Very nice houses, very posh street. Called St John's Road because St John's Church used to be down here, and that was also gone a long time ago. Right, I'll stop here and
what's down there?
down there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Doesn't say private road, does it?
No.
Oh yeah, that is.
And that house there with the lighter coloured brick, I think is where St John's Church was. This one here. I think that's on the site of, because it was on the corner of Lockwood Street. Which is just down here. No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. This bungalow here is where it was. Because it was on the corner of Lockwood Street. And that's Lockwood Street. This is the original rink, which was a roller skating rink. It's now Calvert's Carpets.